Welcome to the Fitness Industry Success Show. Ideas, inspiration, and interviews to take your fitness business to the next level. With over 23 years of fitness industry experience and the founder of LEADLION, an innovative fitness marketing agency, here's your host, Nick Parker.
Welcome everybody to an amazing episode of the Fitness Industry Success Show. I have an incredible guest here today with us who's going to actually blow your mind or maybe pump up your mind. It's Sal Di Stefano from Mind Pump Media, one of the most, probably the most popular podcast in the entire industry, with over 9.5 million downloads a month and climbing. They're going to hit 10 million probably in the next month or so. And he's also the author of The Resistance Training Revolution, which is a book that flips everything on its head in the fitness industry and really challenges your thinking and is incredibly effective as far as the technique. And he uses something called MAPS. And so this is, if you don't know who Sal is, you will by the end of the show. And I really encourage you right off the gate to go follow him at Mind Pump Media and the Mind Pump Show. So with that, Sal, welcome to the show. Thanks for gracing us with your presence. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I appreciate you having me on, Nick. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I want to do today is I want to cover your story, which is absolutely incredible to get to this 10 million, this a month, this huge following. You have just done things so differently. You have an incredible story to tell, you and the guys. But before we do that, we got to do what we always do here on the show, which is play a game called Two Truths and One Lie. You down?
I'm down. Let's do it.
All right, cool. So what you're going to do is you're going to say three things about yourself. One of them is going to be a lie, and I have to guess which one that it is.
All right, perfect. So let's see. I managed my first gym when I was 19 years old. I've bench pressed over 400 pounds. Cool. And I was a track and field athlete in high school.
Okay, got it. So based on what I know, I believe you were at 19 a GM. I managed the gym, I think. And so the second one, that's a lot of weight, 400 pounds. And then track and field. You know what? I'm going to say the track and field is the lie. I'm going to go on a limb here. What do we got?
Yeah, you hit it. You hit the nail.
I did. Oh, I never get them right.
I never did any traditional sports growing up. I was actually a bookworm. I like to work out. I was a huge nerd about working out, but I never did really any traditional sports, which people tend to.
Yeah, that's incredible. So you had a 400-pound bench press. I know that you were really big into heavy lifting in your younger days. That's incredible.
Yeah, I was, and I had a lot of fun doing it. I don't train like that anymore. I'm 43 now, so I got to be careful.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. I stretch as much as I work out now. So that's awesome. Well, let's dive into this story. So for those that don't know, tell us a little bit about the Mind Pump podcast and Mind Pump Media.
Yeah, thanks. So it's the hosts are myself, Adam Schaefer, and Justin Andrews. And we all started the podcast after we already had about roughly 2 decades of experience in the fitness industry, either as trainers or as fitness managers or general managers and running our own businesses in the fitness space. So that's how we came into podcasting. No media experience. And the goal of the podcast really was to counter a lot of the false information that's put out, and as you know, much of the popular fitness media it's just wrong. And we got sick of having to deal with it as trainers and coaches and gym managers. And there was a day-to-day constant battle. And so we said, hey, let's create something where we can counter all of it and try to outsell them, because they do a good job selling the wrong information. Let's see if we can outsell them with the right information and make it somewhat entertaining, because we learned as trainers and gym managers that that was also part of the formula of success. Mm-hmm. And that was the goal. And that's what we did. And we weren't very good when we started in terms of media, but I think it did resonate the way we communicate, which we learned, through, 2 decades of working with everyday people. It did resonate. It grew. And after about a year of doing it for free, basically, we started monetizing, and all of us left our day jobs and did it full time. And here we are.
That's incredible. And let me ask you this. Did you ever, maybe you did, maybe you didn't, did you envision it becoming as big as it is today at that point?
I'm a serial entrepreneur. So are my partners. And I would be lying if I said that I didn't think that every time I started a business. I always feel very confident, right, in what I'm doing. However, this is very interesting. When we did our first recordings, before we even aired them, I remember I would listen to them, and as terrible as we were, I got this very strange, nervous feeling. Like I was more sure that it was going to succeed than I'd ever been about anything I'd ever done before, which made me kind of nervous because it was this new thing. Right. It's media. I'm not a media person. What does that mean? So yeah, and we did. And I don't know if that means we're, a bit narcissistic or what, but we all really did believe that it would, it would be where it's at now and beyond. So.
That's awesome. Well, you have to have a vision. And if the vision isn't exciting enough to get you going and out of bed, then it's really not worth pursuing, right? So totally. You started with a big vision, you dreamed big, and now it is big. Just out of curiosity, we're getting a little ahead. What's the bigger vision here?
The goal is still the same. We want to be the loudest, most impactful, influential voice in the fitness space, both our voices, but also the people that we promote and talk about, because like I said, it's to people who really work in the space, who really care about health and fitness. I know it's a business, and I appreciate and have a lot of fun about the fact that it's a business. But if you really look at most people who start as professionals in the fitness space, their number one priority or goal isn't that they think they're going to make a lot of money. It's usually that they have a passion for fitness and helping others. In fact, if your goal is to make a lot of money, there's other industries I think that are a lot easier to make money. You can get into tech or finance, for example. So, very passionate about helping people. All of us also, like I said, serial entrepreneurs and business people. But it's frustrating because the fitness space really does have the answers to a lot of our problems. I mean, to solve you look at the chronic health issues that modern societies are suffering from, and no industry really has the answer. The medical industry doesn't. They don't do a good job of dealing with chronic health issues. Fitness and health has the answers, but it was frustrating because what was popular and what was considered common knowledge and what people accepted as truth was so wrong. And so the goal is the same. Like, we want to be the ones to turn the ship, right? To influence it in a way so that when people start on a fitness journey, they don't fall under the current statistic, which is like 85% fail rate after the first year and probably north of 90% after, a few years. Like, how can we change that? Well, we got to be the biggest, the most entertaining, the loudest. And we got to be the best at selling the ideas, the right ideas,
I love that you guys are championing that. So are you familiar with IRSA, the organization?
Yes.
Yeah. So IRSA right now, there's a lot of conversation going on between them on that paradigm shift. Like, hey, the industry for a long time has been about this, and now it needs to be more about holistic health, wellness, and overall well-being as a whole, and a bigger approach. And they're trying to change that whole narrative around what the fitness industry is about. And it looks like you guys are leading that as far as the forefront and championing that and doing a really good job at it. Talk to me a little bit about the content of the show. I mean, I listened to it and you guys are like, so if you guys haven't listened to the show, there's everything from like neuroplasticity and the brain and so many different topics, and it runs really deep and I love it. So what's the premise of the show pretty much?
Well, the formula is the same formula that we found to be successful in the gyms that we ran, and with the clients that we would train when we were trainers, and the clients that we worked with by proxy, right? The trainers that worked under us that worked with clients. Like, what made them successful? Success as defined by forever long-term fitness and health success, taking the average person and helping them create a relationship with fitness and nutrition that lasts forever, right? That's success. And if you're at a gym and you do that, you're gonna do very well. You're gonna outcompete all the other gyms,
right?
Because people show up and it works, right? So,
yep.
So what was the formula that worked with that? Well, you have to be likable. Okay, so that's number one. No one's going to show up.
Yeah, you're a jerk, right?
Well, if no one's going to show up every week if you're not likable and they don't enjoy being around you. So there's got to be an entertainment factor. So you're going to have to want to listen, not just to learn about fitness, but also because sometimes we're talking to the average person. I'm not talking to a fitness fanatic like me. I'm always interested in fitness, but The average person, they're going to go through ups and downs. And sometimes I don't want to learn about, I just want to, kind of listen in and see what they're talking about, have some fun. Right. So we got to bring them in, right, with the entertainment and fun factor. Then the second part of the formula is effective communication. How do we communicate the things that really make the biggest impact in ways where people really understand it and apply it? The third thing is total honesty. One thing I learned as a gym manager, and even before that as a trainer, was to under promise, or at least be honest, right? So what a lot of people make the mistake doing when they sell a membership or when they sell personal training is they oversell. Oh yes, Mrs. Johnson, 30 pounds. You want to lose it in 60 days? No problem. Here's what you can do.
Yeah.
It's such a terrible strategy because then they'll fail and they're gone, right? What you want to do is say, hey, look, 30 pounds is going to it takes a lot of people a long time, probably around a year. Here's though what you can expect. You'll probably start to feel better. Your joints might start to hurt a little less. You'll have a little bit more energy. If you're consistent enough over time, this is what happens to your body. And then what happens when they lose 5 pounds in that first month is they're like, this is not only all the stuff that he said happened, but more. Like, this is incredible, right? So we try to be as honest as possible. Don't oversell, tell people the truth. And that formula has worked. That formula has totally worked. And what's funny is it's the opposite. It's the opposite of what's been sold for so long.
Well, that's why it's so refreshing, is because it's the truth and transparency instead of the magic pill or the real thing wrapped in the magic pill formula, right? So and that's what the fitness industry really is working on and needs to work on. I know that we've had everything from all these infomercials for years, and everything's the quick fix, and you do this ab machine and it'll fix your abs in 10 minutes, right?
Absolutely. And the other thing too is that you'll see that there's really smart people in the fitness space, but they're so stuck on science and studies that they end up it's an echo chamber. They're talking to other fitness professionals, and they tend to split hairs and communicate things that really isn't going to have an impact on the average person who's just trying to figure out how to be consistent 2 days a week in the gym. Like, I just want to work out 2 days a week in the gym. And here you are telling me that, a cold, rinse twice a day is going to raise my testosterone by 15%. And if I trade grass-fed beef for, if I eat that instead of regular beef, then I might get a little bit, it's like, let's stop splitting hairs. Let's talk about the stuff that's really important. Communicate in ways that people can understand and apply, and be honest about it. And it's working. And, there's another part of this formula that we had no control over, Nick, which is the fitness space has been around long enough to where the old people are starting to pick up on the old tricks a little bit. 20 years ago when I first started, if I, told somebody, if I showed someone a 30-day before and after and said, oh, if you take this pill or whatever, it's going to work, it was more effective. Today, people are a little bit more skeptical. So if I can counter that, people are more open to it because they go, oh yeah, I've heard that. I've been hearing that for the last 15 years. You're totally right. That's baloney. Yeah,
100%. Absolutely. Can we talk a little bit about the business a little bit in the early days and what's going on there? So obviously you're an author, you have Mind Pump, the podcast, the show, the radio show and the podcast, and then you have what's called Mind Pump Media. And then you have different programs that are sold under this. Give me a picture of the business and what that looks like.
Sure. Currently we have a few arms of the business. So there's Mind Pump Media, which is the podcast, the YouTube channel, our articles and blogs, basically the media side of the business. And then what's attached to that are sponsorships and commercials and that kind of stuff. So companies that want to attach themselves to us, that we also want to attach ourselves to, and leveraging our media to bring in revenue through those partnerships. So that's Mind Pump Media. Then we have MAPS Fitness Products. These are all the workout programs that we've created. Now, I wrote the first MAPS program called MAPS Anabolic years ago before Mind Pump ever started. But each successive program I've created with my partners who are brilliant trainers and coaches. And we now have a library of fitness programs ranging from, very advanced to super deconditioned beginners to people who want to train like a power lifter or a bodybuilder or who like obstacle course racing or correctional exercise for people who, may feel pain, discomfort, or maybe muscle imbalances. So that's MAPS Fitness Products. And then with the third arm, which is one that we don't talk a lot about, is Mind Pump Investments. And we started that as a way to set ourselves up. We started the business in our mid 30s. We're now all in our 40s, early 40s. And, along with that comes a little bit of maturity. And so we said, hey, look, let's make sure we set ourselves up, because this is great. Everything's growing, but we need to set up some investments to keep it happening if something were to happen to the business. So in that, we have rental properties and angel investments, and we do invest a little bit in the market. And we've only been doing that for a couple of years. So those are the
Awesome.
three sides of the
Yeah. That's really cool. So talk to me about the early days. You said you're a serial entrepreneur, and we have a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs that listen to this show. Talk to me about the early days. People love to hear the struggle. They want to know, because they can relate, because they're either in it or they've been through it. And then getting through that struggle and what happened during those times.
Yeah, what's cool about talking to fitness to people in the fitness business side or the fitness industry is that, and it's going to sound kind of corny, but you can really apply the lessons of training and working out are the same lessons that work for business, right? So one of the biggest lessons that you learn if you've been working out and training long enough is that the if you really want to do this forever and you really want to get the most out of it, it's really about the journey, not really about necessarily the goal or the end point, right? So the person who really enjoys the workout for the sake of the workout is going to be in better shape and be healthier, and they're going to be more consistent than the person who's, just loves the adding 10 pounds to my bench press or getting more muscular or getting leaner, right?
Right.
So with entrepreneurship, I really enjoyed the process. So the hard parts, the failing, the starting over, the figuring out the issues and the problems, I like that so much that if an idea didn't work, if I had to change gears, which I've had to do several times, it was just that kind of a part of it. It's like when you first learn how to do a squat or a deadlift, you suck at it for a while, and you start to figure it out. But if you love the fact that you suck at it and you got to figure it out and learn how to do it better, you're going to be great at it, right? So that's the lesson I would say that really crosses over. And I just love the journey. I used to tell people that I was unemployable. I don't mean that you can't hire me. I'd be a great employee if you did.
Right.
But unemployable in the sense that I love the struggle and the journey so much, and I love the autonomy, that working for someone else really loses its luster very quickly.
Yeah.
For me. And I figured that out at a very young age. So
yeah, for sure. I love what you said about the journey, because a lot of times we marry the outcome and we get so attached to it that it either leads to impatience and frustration and bad decisions, or you hit that outcome and then it leads to feeling like the day after Christmas where you just land flat and you're like, now what?
It's empty.
So,
it's
empty.
If you get to that goal, I want to make $1 million. I want to make $10 million. I want to have 4 locations. I want to whatever. You hit that goal, you're left with the now what? Okay, I did. And it's not as great as I thought. And that's the truth now. That's the truth. Yep. It's not what you think it's going to be. Now, that doesn't mean it's not something worth pursuing, but that's just the truth. Now, if you enjoy the journey, that never ends and it changes and you get older, and maybe you go from growing your business to teaching others how to do it to, to maybe being a grandfather, who knows, right? But that journey is where it really's at. And if you learn to appreciate that, the milestones hit themselves, and it doesn't matter. I hit that $1 million milestone. That's okay, because I like the journey. Let's keep going. That's the fun part every day, right?
Absolutely, 100%. I love that. Was there any point in the earlier days where there was a pivotal point where you guys either made a decision that had a big impact or something that really changed the trajectory or increased the growth or anything like that?
There's been a lot of those, but the one that always sticks out to me. So when we first started Mind Pump, and without going into the whole thing, because it could be a long story, but I really didn't know my partner. I knew Doug. Doug's our producer, and Doug and I was his trainer for a while, and that's how him and I got connected. Adam and Justin, I didn't know Justin, but I knew of Adam, and Adam knew of me. Both of us were top performers at 24 Hour Fitness in the early days. I started there right after they had gone from Nautilus to Fitness, back when 24 Hour Fitness and Ray Wilson's Family Fitness merged. Adam started a bit later, and we'd hear of each other because we were top performers. And this is really odd, but I would have people all the time that would come up to me and say, you got to meet this guy, Adam. You guys should work together. And then he would get the same thing. So it's really weird. Never met the guy. Anyway, fast forward, we get connected and we all decide, to start this podcast. And we had a fourth host. So right now there's three of us, right? Me, Adam, and Justin. But there was a fourth host, Craig Capurso, good friend of mine. Love the guy. Very smart, hardworking guy. Didn't know him. Adam was friends with him. And Craig had the largest social media following of all of us. So he had a decent social media following. Adam had a small one that he had built. I think Adam had something like 20-something thousand followers on Instagram. Craig, I believe, had something close to 100,000 or more. Justin had almost none. I wasn't even on social media. And Doug wasn't even on social media. And so obviously part of the value of Craig being on was it would have helped us have that kind of kickstart. Because, when you put it out, it's like, that's the hardest thing, right? How do we get people to look at us? So we're all working together and we recorded, 15 episodes. And Doug, has the equipment and put it all together, edits the shows. So it was a decent amount of work. I'd say probably took us maybe 3 months of, meeting together, at 8:00 at night after we had finished our normal jobs. I mean, I owned a wellness studio and Adam and Justin had their own businesses and Doug was doing his own thing. So we'd meet at night, work together. This was about 3 months, editing, listening, all this stuff. And we were probably, I want to say, days before launching the podcast. And what we're going to do is we're going to drop 5 episodes at once. That's a typical strategy. And so we're all excited, right? Like, oh, cool, we're going to do this thing, right? Well, Craig, he was sponsored by Cellucor, which is a supplement company.
Yep.
And Craig took the finished edited episodes, and we were, especially in the early days, a bit raw. I want to say very raw. But we also we're also super honest, right? So we would talk about like supplements and how there's very little value to supplements in comparison to nutrition and exercise, and we talked a lot about the lies and stuff, which doesn't make you very popular with the industry big shots, because that's how they make their money. Well, nonetheless, right. Craig takes these couple episodes and sends it to his representatives over at Cellucor. He had a sponsorship, so he was getting paid monthly by them. And he says, "Hey, what do you guys think of this new podcast we're gonna be on?" And their reply back to him was, "Sounds fun, it's entertaining, but I don't know, man. It's gonna be kind of rough because these guys are talking crap about some of the supplements we sell, and you guys are a little raw and stuff like that." So about 3 or 4 days before going live, we get a text from Craig, the guy with the social media following, who's going to give us our first start, right? And he says, "Hey guys, I hate to tell you, I can't do this. We can't drop these episodes." So that's on text, right? So I get this text and I'm like, oh man, number one, we don't have a footing. And number two, now I'm concerned that my partners, who I just got to know, or I just getting to know still, again, remember I didn't know them before, they're gonna freak out and not want to do this. And I really want to do this. So I had got, having been a manager and a business owner, I had gotten ready to get on the phone on a conference call, and I'm gonna close these guys on, we're gonna go anyway. We're gonna redo these episodes, and who cares? Nothing's gonna stop us. We know what we're doing. We know we're doing this for the right reasons. Let's do this anyway, right? So I get everybody on a conference call, and before I can say anything, Adam and Justin pipe up and say, "Screw it, we're going to do this anyway." Before I can even say anything, they were already there too, right?
Right on.
And I right then and there, I knew, like, oh, these are the guys that I need to work with. This is amazing. So that one really stands out. And there's a lot of other, I guess, pivotal moments. I would say one of them was segmenting the show. We naturally would fall into a rhythm where we would open the show with, non-specific fitness talk. We would talk about what's happening in our lives, maybe a little current events. We'd tell some fun stories, and then we'd get into the fitness stuff. And we started to realize that we had a segment of our audience that loved that part.
Yep.
And then we had a segment of the audience that loved the fitness part. So some people just listen to the front half. The other people like to fast forward and get to the second half.
Interesting.
And we said, you know what? We should segment the show, and in the intro, let people know how long the intro is. before we get to the fitness stuff, so that people can, don't have to wait and see what's going on or whatever. And it was good. It actually gave us a nice boost. It also helped us organize the podcast. And there's lots of things like that. But that first one I told you, man, whenever somebody asked me a question about that, that really pops into my head, because that was a big one.
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, that's changed the whole thing. It gave you confidence, like, hey, these guys are in. We're doing this no matter what. And I love your attitude on resiliency and grit. Like, hey, I really want to do this. I'm going to close this deal and we're going to do it. And if not, I'm going to figure out a way to do it. As an entrepreneur in the early days, you just have to have that grit. Like, no matter what, I'm going to figure this out.
Absolutely. And that's part of the fun, I think. Like I said, the journey part, right? Like, it gets me excited. It sucks because it's hard, but it's exciting.
Yeah. It's the weirdest paradox ever. It's a high and a low all at the same time.
Yep. Absolutely.
So we got a few minutes left before we start wrapping up. What does the day in the life look like for Sal right now?
Oh, geez. So I have 3 kids. I got one on the way. So big family. So typically what I'll do is I'll wake up around 4:45, 5 a.m. Right now, my wife's pregnant. and she's in that first trimester. Yeah, thank you very much. So she's a bit nauseous. So I'll get up early. I already got my gym bag ready and everything. I'll go downstairs. I'll get her some cold water and something to eat so she can not throw up when she wakes up. I'll head to a gym that's maybe 15 minutes away from my house. Do my workout. I'll typically do sauna. That sets me mentally. It really gets me mentally sharp, ready to go. Then I show up here. We typically start with we have some improv coaching, which helps us with the visual entertainment side of the show. Cool. and then we'll organize our podcast. Kind of what our topics are going to be, and loosely put down some topics. We'll do the show. We will record, have meetings, and we typically finish around between 2 to 3 p.m., sometimes as late as 4 p.m. Then I'll head home, either pick up my daughter from school, and I'll be with my family from then on. And if I have to write any blogs or anything like that, I typically will do it around 7 or 8 p.m. In the evening, and then start over the next day.
That's really cool. So you have a real heavy content business, and it requires, just writing and scripting and acting and voicing and all of that stuff. So talk to me a little bit about that improv coaching. That's interesting.
Yeah. So the podcast was all audio for most of Mind Pump's history. But we wanted to place a focus on YouTube back. Now, we had put up videos of the podcast on YouTube, but really placed no emphasis on the visual aspect, like how it's different, right, when you watch versus when you just listen. So back in November of last year, we said, let's really make next year, let's dedicate it to making Mind Pump a really good visual show. YouTube is a much larger platform than the podcast platforms. It's like 1 billion users versus like 100 million.
Right.
There's tremendous potential there. I think we're ready. We all thought we were ready. We'd already been doing media audio for a while. So we invested, time and money in the studio. We took the headphones off when we did the show. And in order to make ourselves better, we thought, let's hire somebody that'll help us present ourselves in ways that are better and visually. And an improv coach seemed like an obvious choice. Justin had a little bit of history, a little bit of experience, I should say, with improv. He's the least comfortable speaking on camera and on the mics and stuff. And he did a little improv training, and it really improved his ability. So we hired someone. They come in, we do these exercises, they challenge us a little bit, and it's definitely made us better communicators on video. And so now, here we are, and maybe 5 months later. And the podcast on YouTube has grown from, we've had a few thousand subscribers, now over 250,000 in a short period of time. So it's definitely paid off.
I love it. You know what I'm seeing is a trend and a theme here, and I want to have our viewers think about this, is that very successful people in business or fitness or whatever it is, or you combine all of them, have a huge desire to improve personally and work on themselves.
Always.
And there's a personal growth trajectory, because your business will never outgrow you. You have to grow first. Same thing with fitness. You have to there's a lot to mentally overcome. There's behavioral changes. There's psychological things that you got to overcome sometimes, especially if you're losing a lot of weight. And so I'm seeing this in you. You're amazing at I'm always going to work on myself. I'm always going to get better. I'm going to hire this coach. I'm going to team up with these people. and that humility is really cool about you and attractive, and how you're always willing to work on yourself to get better and help the people around you get better.
I appreciate that, Nick. You know, it's funny because we tend to shy away from that because it requires personal responsibility. It requires that you say, I'm not good at this thing, or I could be better at this thing. But on the other end of that is empowerment, because there's one thing that I have the most control over in the world, and that is myself, right? So why not focus my energy on that? And it's a very empowering feeling. I can't control everything around me. I can't control the weather. I can't control, the uncontrollables. I can't control the market. Something crazy happens or whatever. We were just through a pandemic that threw the wrench in a lot of fitness businesses. But I can do this. I can work on this guy right here. So, and thankfully my partners are the same. So it's really cool.
That is awesome. So yeah, what advice, let's close on this. What advice would you give to people who are in the fitness industry and they're, I kind of want to make this two parts. One is they're trying to, like, if a trainer's listening to it, or a general manager or an owner, and they're trying to have a bigger impact on their members, as far as like F45 does. They have a lot of high touch point systems to get their members better results because they know they're results driven. What would be your one piece of advice to help them get more results? And then on the other question that I want to end with is, what advice would you give to business owners? So let's start with the first one.
Yeah. So let me give two, okay, if you don't mind.
Yep.
I remember years ago, I had this debate with a friend of mine over what really motivates people to work hard. And they were making the argument that it was money. Money really motivates people to work hard. And my counter was that it wasn't, it was purpose. And I won the argument because I pointed out that some of the hardest working people I've ever met in my entire life were volunteers, right? People who work for nothing. They put themselves out there, volunteer, and get zero money, but they do it because they have a sense of purpose and meaning. One of the beauties of the fitness industry is that most of us enter into it because of that. Most of us enter into it because they have this deep sense of meaning and purpose. If you allow that to lead you in what we do, because a lot of what we do, most of what we do, is getting people to make those changes and selling that dream, right? That dream of health and fitness. I mean, they come into your gym, you think you're selling your gym, you're not. If there's, look, CrossFit proved that. Right. CrossFit was a garage with some barbells, and they crushed, right? They crushed gyms with millions of dollars worth of equipment. It's not that, it's the dream. So lead with that purpose and that meaning, and that's going to make you, just super, super effective. Yeah. Here's the other thing that I like to communicate with people. The culture that you create in your facility is so valuable. I've managed gyms that were, one of the clubs that I managed for 24 Hour Fitness was one of their old flagship clubs. Okay. This was Club 506 in Sunnyvale. Now they've since redone it and re-grand opened it. But when I ran it, it had been through the ringer already. So you're looking at, it was older. The pool would break, half the time.
I was tired.
I remember when it rained, the ceiling caved in at one point. It was just whatever. And I would compete with some of the newer clubs that the company had that were much nicer, much cleaner, much bigger, the whole deal, right? And I'd kick the crap out of them. But it wasn't because I had better equipment or better gyms, because I had my culture was incredible. And again, I use the example of CrossFit. CrossFit proved that. Like, why did some of these boxes do so well? It was because of the culture in the gym. So look at the culture that you create, because people are showing up and they're trying to build the skill of discipline. They're not going to be motivated all the time. You can't motivate them all the time. That's a feeling. So how can I get this person to really find value in what we're doing, make this a part of life? It's the culture that they show up for.
I love it. That is really fantastic advice. And this has been an awesome show. Sal, if people want to connect with you or follow you or grab your book, where should they be headed?
You can find me personally on Twitter at MindPumpSal. I got kicked off Instagram, so you can't find me there anymore. Okay. And the podcast, that's a long story. And the podcast is Mind Pump. You can find Mind Pump anywhere. And then my book is The Resistance Training Revolution. And this is where I talk about how the current research is now showing that strength training or resistance training is the superior form of exercise for chronic health issues, especially the ones that we suffer from in modern societies.
Love it. Love it. Absolutely. It's phenomenal. Your content's amazing. So everyone that's listening, go subscribe to Mind Pump Podcast. I promise you won't be disappointed. It's an incredible podcast. So, all right. Remember, the more you know, the more you grow. So like, share, and subscribe to the next level of success in your fitness business. And until next time, we'll see you soon.